Welcome back to Dominate Your Potential, the podcast for purpose-driven leaders who are ready to break free from hustle culture and live in rhythm with God's design. Well, I am your host, Milton Sithole, speaker, coach, author, founder of Millions Impact Training and Community Rhythm Survey, and also I am your fellow freedom seeker. Now, if you tuned into episode 1, you will remember we set the foundation. The grind isn't godly. Today, in part 2, we are going deeper. We are talking about how to reset your mindset, your routines and rhythms when you've been living in survival mode, and how to actually reclaim rest and recharge for what really matters. Now, I have a question for you, my friend. Have you ever reached a point where your body forced you to stop? Maybe it was burnout, could have been illness, or even just emotional exhaustion. For me, I remember a season when I was saying yes to everything. Yes to projects, events, responsibilities, and my body literally shut down. I had headaches, sleepless nights, and my family kept asking, "Are you really present or just here in body?" They felt I was isolating myself. I was not giving them the time and attention they deserved. And that was a wake-up call. God wasn't impressed with my grind. He was inviting me to reset, which is what I want to do with you today, my friend. I want to invite you to reset, to just recognize when you are running on empty. That is my point number 1, that you need to recognize when you are running on empty. I remember the book, the Bible, because I do a reading a lot, and one of my favorite books is the Bible. I get a lot of wisdom, the stories there, a lot of lessons. And one particular story I want to share today is about Elijah when he was under the broom tree. If you are not familiar with the Bible, that's okay. I'm just going to share with you what the story is about. So Elijah was a prophet in the olden days, and he was used of God in a mighty way. He will perform miracles and great miracles. And in this particular occasion, Elijah had done a wonderful, wonderful thing. Like, he had challenged some false prophets. According to the Bible, there were 400 prophets of Baal were not for the Creator, the God Almighty, the Lord of heaven and earth, the monarch of the universe. And Elijah was one man against 400 prophets. And in this instance, he was like, the God who answers by fire is the one true God. So they started these 400 prophets to do whatever they were doing. They are calling on their God, dancing and calling their enchantments. They're praying and everything. However, nothing happened. And it was now Elijah's turn to call on his God. And what he did then is there was a meat that they put on the altar, and they were like, build trenches and pour water, a lot of water. They pour gallons and gallons of water to make it even impossible for fire to come, right? Remember, the challenge was the God who answers by fire is the one true God. So what then happened is when Elijah called on to the God, his God, fire came and it consumed. Even all the 400 prophets, they were consumed by that very fire. And it was a victory for Elijah, as it were. However, a threat came from this woman who was called Jezebel. She was an influential lady, was a queen or something. She then threatened the life of Elijah, like, tomorrow, by this time tomorrow, what happened to the prophets, it shall have happened to you. Basically, she threatened his life. And Elijah was so afraid, he decided to run and hide. He was like, "Oh God, I'm sick and tired of this. I've hit my limit. I don't want to do this anymore." You see, even prophets can hit burnout. Elijah wanted to quit. And I like what God then did with him. God's first response was not a pep talk. He didn't give him a motivational session or a pep talk. What then God did, it was food, It gave him food and allowed him to rest and to recover. And sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is sleep, of which some people may not understand why you are sleeping. They say, of course, the Bible says a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, then poverty will come running unto you like a vagabond. However, it's also necessary to rest. You understand? You have to notice the signs. You can't keep, when you're tired, you're tired. You need to reset. You need to rest so that your mind can function better. So you need to notice the signs. You could be irritable. The irritability, the lack of focus and disconnection, that is a sure sign that you are running on empty and you need to reset. So after Elijah had his meal and his rest and recovery, he was rejuvenated and God sent him on another errand, on another mission. That is what you need as well in this life, be it in business, whatever project you're doing with your family. There comes a time when you need to realize that you are running on empty and you need to reset. And let me assure you, rest is a weapon, not weakness. Rest is a weapon, not a weakness. Because after you're rested, you are rejuvenated, you are strengthened, your focus is realigned. You understand? Like even that's why you find people will go on holidays. They go on holidays because they need the rest. You have been working over and over time. Some jobs are stressful, and you just need that time. You have been working you are working for yourself, you're in business for yourself. You need to rest. You need to reset. You need to come down and rest. It's called the Sabbath principle. And it isn't outdated. It is a divine reset button. When you stop working, you declare that God is in control. So just schedule some hours of rest. Be it in a week, take some time off from work, and no emails, no work, no guilt. You are resting. You understand? You are resetting your body, your mind, yourself. And number 3 that you need to note is reset your rhythm daily. I was reading something, and this writer was talking about having a routine, the importance of having a routine, the consistency of it will bring about, when you compound the compound effect, it will yield like unprecedented amounts of results. And we find this also with Jesus Christ. Remember, this is dominate your potential, and I am talking what I'd share based on Christian principles, whatever lessons, whatever. I always make reference to the Bible, and if you're not familiar with the Bible, that's fine. However, the lessons will also impact your life. So Jesus in Matthew, if you're not familiar, there is a book in the Bible called Mark. In the New Testament, it's in Mark chapter 1 verse 35. Jesus often withdrew early to go and pray, and here Jesus modeled daily withdrawal, not just yearly vacations. You see, reset happens in small consistent rhythms. Could be morning prayer, could be journaling, short walks, daily gratitude list. And I was reading this newsletter, and exactly this is what the author said about having a rhythm, about having a routine. He said it could be morning prayer, a journaling, a short walk, a daily gratitude list, which is very, very important. And on point number 4, Yes, so point number 4 will be reframe success beyond striving. Reframe success beyond striving. What do I mean by this? You see, true success is fruitfulness, not business. And God calls us to abide, not strive. You just have to have faith and God, as it were. You need to be, there is a Greek term that says talent, which means to be fruitful and productive. So you need to reframe success beyond striving and know that apart from Him, you can do nothing, as true success is fruitfulness, not business, and God calls us to abide and not to strive. So what do I mean? You need to redefine your wins, need to redefine your presence with family, and you need to redefine your obedience to God and your health in body and spirit. It's very, very important. And number 5, very, very fundamental, is recharge in community. You do not need to neglect coming together, meeting together. You see, isolation fuels burnout. Community brings restoration. You, as women, as human beings, we were designed, to have people around us. It was so difficult during the pandemic that there was lockdowns and people were isolated. It was very tough because a lot of bad things happened to some families, some spouses and everything, because they were just locked up in one place. But you need a community, to come out, meet different people, socialize, network. Hence, they need to network. There are networking groups, there are meetups, just to meet with like-minded people. And for me, I run a company. It's an organization. It's called Community Rhythms Surrey. So what we do there is we do some African drumming. We do some workshops, musical. We play some drums. We do workshops on music. We teach people how to play the drum, just to engage the community. And it helps with mindset. It helps with mental health. It helps with a lot of things. That's what we do. We bring in together young and the old. It doesn't matter whether you're young or you're old. Everybody can learn how to play the drums. It's a community. We build the community. We go to schools. We go to a lot of different places. We created this circle, and to engage the community. And for you, you can find your circle, be a church group, an accountability partner. You can come to our CRS drumming workshop or Millions Impact Training coaching cohort, and that is your community. That's very, very important. And I just want to ask you this question. Where in your life are you running on fumes? Where do you need a holy reset? You see, God isn't asking you to grind harder. No. That's not it. He's inviting you to receive His rest so you can be recharged for purpose. You understand? Because He says, the blessing of the Lord maketh rich, and He adds no sorrow with it. So you may be going to work, you're grinding and it's painful. That's not God's plan for you. That is not His purpose for your life. He wants you to have rest. You see, for Him, He doesn't sleep nor slumber. So why should you then, be toiling all night and be having restless nights when you can rest in Him? In Him, there is no stress. So, just a prompt for you, something for you to write down, to journal. If I believe God wanted me rested, how will I reorder my week? That is my challenge to you. A prompt that you can write. If you believed God wanted you rested, how will you reorder your week? And I hope this episode has been a blessing to you. And if today's episode really spoke to you, here is what I want you to do. You can book a free one-to-one reset and rhythm session with me, and we'll map out how you can move from grind to grace. Now, I need you to DM the word reset on my LinkedIn, Milton Sithole. The link is in the bio, is in the description notes. And check out my course. I have a course. It's called Escape the Grind. It's a 6-week blueprint for building rhythms that actually fuel your calling. And if you're local to Surrey or Helstonmere, join us at Community Rhythm Surrey for our next drum dance heal workshop, because rhythms heals more than we realize. You weren't made to run on empty. You were made to live full, free, and fruitful. This week, give yourself permission to rest. That's not laziness. That's leadership. I am Milton Sithole. This is Dominate Your Potential, and see you in the next episode.